As a supporter of the Second Amendment, but it's not the appropriate time to be having that debate right now. Joining me here on set, former New York State Homeland Security Director Michael Balboni, former member of the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force Steve Rogers, and former Chicago Sergeant Peter Kokonis. Good to have you all here. Steve, I'm going to start with you, given your FBI background. What is it that they're trying to piece together right now? Motive? Motive is very important, Trish. The way they're going to get motive is through a forensic study of just about everything he owns. We're talking about his telephone, his computer. They're called electronic footprints. They're going to know who he spoke with, who he did some maybe social media conversations with. And what they'll find out on these instruments is, was there any hate speech? Was there any bias? Was there any political agenda? Well, that's the question. I mean, you heard Sebastian Gorka there say that, you know, it's not clear, number one, what this is right now. We don't know. The FBI doesn't seem to have discovered any kind of links to terrorism. Jihadist-style terrorism. However, there could be another form of terrorism as well. In this particular group that was being targeted, Michael, they were all country music fans. I mean, there are going to be a lot of questions. We don't know right now, but so far his record was pretty clean. What kind of hate speech are they looking for?
I think they're looking for the hate speech that would motivate something to this extreme. And one of the things that's so hard to grasp is when that switch is flipped and that person becomes the instrument of this type of attack. I mean, look at the planning. He went up to that, built into that hotel. He scoped out the room. You're going to find out that he was there before. We think that he even had some access to it. We don't know what that access consisted of. Mm-hmm. And then to bring those weapons and to use that firepower on that group at that time. Remember, it was the last part of the concert, and this is when the most people would be there. So it was absolutely an opportunity to do the most damage. And of course, the question is, what do you do to protect this going forward? That's really the challenge. Well, you know, and the damage he did. I mean, look, if someone's known to authorities, if they're tracking someone because they suspect them of being a terrorist, and then it comes out after that they did something, that's one thing. But in this particular case, Peter, I would imagine it would have been pretty challenging for authorities if he had none of these red flags.
The response by these authorities to locate the shooter, breach that room within 10 or 15 minutes and take him out, or, well, he took himself out. I mean, that's what's amazing. There were three female Chicago officers there that rendered aid to these people that were wounded. Yeah, but you mentioned how amazing that is. You know, that they found that the smoke detector in that room on the 32nd floor at the Mandalay Bay went off, and that's what led them to go to his room. I mean, it's tremendous, really, that you think of all the more damage that could have been done, although these are just horrific numbers. You know, this morning, one of our producers was sending me some research for this, and at that point, we had more than 400, and that was in the title of the subject of the email that she sent to me, and I looked at it, and it really just made my heart stop, because you think more than 400 people wounded in this. Now we know more than 500. I mean, these are horrific numbers. But Trish, the strategic and tactical response of those police officers saved a lot of lives. And the people on the ground, Marines, Mike, military personnel, police officers, firefighters, Americans came together to save their fellow Americans. And overall, there could have been a lot more people who passed away. And I thank God we had good people on the ground, really willing and able to step up and to risk their own lives. All right, when we think about how do we prevent this stuff going forward, I mean, you've got the New York background. What do we do here?
So I think that one of the words we ought to really pay attention to is a word called overwatch. Participated in the strategy of how to protect large gatherings, how to protect persons that need protection. So one of the things you do is obfuscation, right? You close off the lines of sight so we'd prevent a sniper from being shooting. This is a tactic that the Secret Service uses. Is this what we do in New York City? It's a great point, but when you have to take it a piece at a time, and we are reactive. That's part of everyone sits back. So you're going to sell like no hotel rooms when the country music festival is happening on the 32nd floor. So if there are capabilities right now that are utilized right now, where you could have a counter sniper capability in a mass event, and you have the ability with certain night scopes where you can pick up that there is some type of activity going on, and you can circle on that. These are things how do you do that? No, actually, but how do you do that? I mean, you have this night scope that just sort of surveils the sky? Exactly correct. What you can do is you can pick up a thermal image. It's not foolproof. You're not going to be able to prevent something, But if you have a mass event, it may be some of the things to consider. First of all, you take out the line of sight, which means you can put up screening so that you can't see into the crowd with as much specificity as you can. You put it in front of high buildings. The other thing you can do is you can possibly work in a coordinated response with law enforcement and social media to see what is going on.
Peter, do you think that this was something he did on his own, or do you think one person pointed out to me he might have had a spotter because they saw that second window that was blown out and they questioned that? Is it something you're considering at all?
I personally would believe that he was acted on his own. He picked a corner room. 22,000 people are in a lot, and there's one way in, one way out. There's no way for them to escape. He doesn't have to aim. He can buy a bump trigger over the internet for $159, and that rifle would automatically turn automatic, and he just keeps firing. There's no place for these people to go. You have 22,000 people trying to get out in one exit, and you saw some of the film was where people were just knocking over fences and going through walls to get out of there.
Trish, what Mike and Peter just articulated is important because what Peter said, there's going to be a change, I'm sure, in strategy with regard to exiting these areas and then how we're going to deal with them to prevent
Thank you so much. Good to have you all here. We're going to take a quick break. There's going to be a moment of silence coming from the White House. We'll have that for you next. I'll see you right back here.